In the coastal village of Eryndor, where the sky met the endless ocean, life was simple but harsh. The villagers lived by the tides, their livelihoods dependent on the sea's mercurial temperament. They were fishermen, sailors, and tradesmen, all bound to the rhythm of the waves. But Eryndor was not just any village by the sea. It was known for a legend that had been whispered from generation to generation. The tale of the Siren's song. It was said that far beneath the waves, in the depths of the ocean, a Siren queen ruled a kingdom of lost souls. Her song, beautiful and haunting, could be heard on the wind on the darkest nights. Anyone who listened too closely would be drawn into the sea, never to return. No one knew if the story was true, but it was enough to keep most people indoors when the waves roared and the moon was high. Aidan, however, had never believed in the legend. He was a young man of 23, tall and strong, with windswept hair the color of sand and eyes as blue as the ocean he loved so much. He had grown up on the shore, learning to sail and fish from his father, who had died several years ago in a storm that had claimed many lives. Aidan had inherited his father's boat, a sturdy vessel named the Horizon, and since then he had become one of the village's most skilled fishermen. But Aidan was not content with the life he had. The sea, though beautiful, felt confining to him. He longed for adventure, for something more than the small, quiet life Eryndor had to offer. His dreams were filled with distant lands and the promise of excitement. He often found himself staring out at the horizon, wondering what lay beyond the edge of the world. One evening, as the sun set over the water, casting the sea in hues of orange and pink, Aidan sat on the beach, his thoughts lost in the waves. The tide was unusually high, the waves crashing against the shore with a force that seemed unnatural. The wind howled, carrying with it the scent of salt and something else, something sweet and otherworldly. Aidan's heart quickened. He had heard the stories of the Siren's gong, but he had never believed them. Yet now, as he sat alone on the shore, he could swear he heard something, a melody, faint and distant, but undeniably beautiful. It seemed to drift on the wind, calling to him, beckoning him to the sea. He shook his head, trying to clear his mind. "It's just the wind," he muttered to himself. But the song grew louder, more insistent, and before he knew it, he was on his feet, walking toward the water. As he reached the edge of the surf, the song enveloped him, wrapping around his mind like a warm embrace. His feet moved of their own accord, stepping into the cold water, the waves lapping at his legs. The melody was hypnotic, filling his head with visions of shimmering cities beneath the sea, of treasures hidden in the depths, and of a queen with eyes like the stars. Aidan knew he should turn back, that he should run from the shore before it was too late. But he couldn't. The song was too beautiful, too alluring. It promised him everything he had ever wanted: adventure, excitement, a life beyond the mundane. He waded deeper into the water, the waves now up to his waist. And then, just as he was about to plunge beneath the surface, a hand grabbed his arm, pulling him back to shore. "Aidan, what are you doing?" A voice shouted over the roar of the wind. He turned to see Elara, the village healer, standing behind him, her dark hair whipping around her face in the wind. She was breathless, her eyes wide with fear. Elara had known Aidan for years, ever since they were children, but she had never seen him like this, entranced, as if he were in a trance. Elara? Aiden blinked, the fog in his mind clearing. I don't know. I heard something. The song, she said, her voice trembling. You heard the sirens, Donketit? Aiden shook his head, I thought it was just a story. It's not, she said, pulling him further from the water. Come with me. We need to get away from the shore. They hurried back to the village, the wind howling around them. Aiden's heart was still racing, his mind struggling to make sense of what had just happened. He had heard the sirens' dong, the song that had lured so many sailors to their doom, and he had almost followed it into the sea. Once they were safely inside Elara's small cottage. She lit a fire to chase away the chill. Aiden sat by the hearth, staring into the flames, his thoughts still swirling. Elara knelt beside him, her brow furrowed with concern. You're lucky I found you, she said quietly. If I hadn't been walking back from the cliffs, you would have been lost. Aiden nodded, though he wasn't sure what to say. He had never been one to believe in magic or old legends, but tonight had shaken that belief. Why now? He asked after a long silence. Why did I hear the song tonight? Elara looked into the fire, her face solemn. The siren's song comes when the sea is restless, when something stirs beneath the waves. It hasn't been heard in years, not since your father's time. Aiden's eyes widened. My father! She nodded. He was one of the last to hear it. He spoke of it the night before the storm took him. Aiden's heart pounded. He had never known that. His father had always been a man of few words, and he had never spoken of the siren's song. But now, Aiden wondered if the storm that had taken his father had been more than just bad luck. Had his father been lured by the song just as Aiden had nearly been? I have to know more, Aiden said, standing abruptly. I have to understand what's happening. Elara looked at him, her eyes filled with worry. Aiden, no, you can't go chasing after this. The song is dangerous. It's meant to lure you to your death. I need answers, Aiden insisted. If my father heard the song, then there's a connection. I need to find out why. Elara hesitated, then sighed. If you're determined to go, then I'll help you. But you need to be careful. The sea is not something to be trifled with. The next day, Aiden and Elara set out to visit the only person in the village who might have answers, an old sailor named Captain Thorn. Thorn had sailed the seas for most of his life, and he was said to have encountered all manner of strange and mystical things in his travels. Now, in his old age, he lived in a small hut by the cliffs, watching the sea with eyes that had seen too much. When they arrived at Thorn's hut, the old man was sitting on a wooden bench, staring out at the horizon. His hair was white, his face weathered and scarred by years of sun and salt, but his eyes were sharp, piercing. So, Thorn said as they approached, you've heard the song, haven't you, lad? Aiden nodded, surprised. How did you know? Thorn chuckled, though there was no humor in it. I've been waiting for this day. The sea's been quiet for too long. I knew it was only a matter of time before she started calling again. Who is she? Aiden asked. The siren? Is she real? Thorn's expression darkened. Oh, she's real, all right. More real than you'd like to believe. The the Siren Queen, ruler of the deep and her kingdom of the drowned. She calls to those who long for something more, who seek adventure or escape. But once you answer her call, there's no coming back. Aidan felt a chill run down his spine. My father, did he hear the song? Thorn nodded. Aye, he heard it the night before the storm. He told me about it, said it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever heard. But I warned him not to listen. He didn't believe me, just like you. Aidan clenched his fists. Why did she call to him? Why is she calling to me? Thorn sighed, leaning on his cane as he stood. The sea has her reasons, lad. Maybe she sees something in you, something she saw in your father. A longing for more, for something beyond this life. But you mustn't listen. The song is a trap. Aidan stared at the old man, his mind racing. He had always wanted more from life, but he had never imagined it would lead him down this path. Now he stood at the edge of something he didn't understand, and the weight of the decision pressed down on him. Is there any way to stop her? Aidan asked. To break the spell? Thorn shook his head. Once the song starts, it doesn't stop until it gets what it wants. But there is one thing you can do, one way to face her. What is it? Aidan asked, his voice barely a whisper. Thorn's eyes